Llamitas, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos nuevamente aquí a nuestra segunda temporada de Oye Bombera la Vida detrás del fuego. El día de hoy traigo, ¿qué digo? Un invitadazo real para abrir esta segunda temporada, razón por la cual vamos a grabar este primer podcast en inglés. Vamos a cambiar, pero no se preocupen, aquí va a estar completamente subtitulado en español para que lo puedan disfrutar. Así que, welcome to our first episode, and my guest today is Mike from Paratech. Mike, welcome! Mike, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Did you have a good flight coming to Mexico?
Yeah. It was a long day, but I made it here.
It was a long flight for you. By the way, this is your camera. If you ever want to address to the audience, that's your camera. How long have you been a firefighter for?
I was a firefighter for 30 years and retired as a battalion chief with Unified Fire in Salt Lake County. And then I came to work for Paratech. It's been a great journey. And then I've also been part of the FEMA Urban Search and Rescue System since that started when Utah first got its team. So I've been on that since like 91, 92 when that started.
Wow.
And I'm still a member of that today.
Active.
Yeah, still an active member of that today. And as a member of the team, but I go out with, there's 3 command teams in the nation, red, white, and blue.
And you are?
And one of the ops chief.
Okay, wow. So did you ever want to be a firefighter when you were little? Or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I used to watch a lot of, back in the day, the show Emergency, Spot 51, and Gage and DeSoto. I mean, that's an old TV show, but yeah, I used to watch that all the time.
Do you come from a family born from firefighters, or you're the first firefighter here?
I was,
Yeah, what did your family say when you come and says like, hey, I'm going to be a firefighter?
yeah, they liked it.
Really? My family went nuts when I was like, I want to be a firefighter. I was like, are you crazy? Like, they're just all dudes and stuff. So probably it was easier for you.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm super excited because you have like all this journey and all of these years and experience. How do you stay humble after all those years?
I don't know. I guess I've always just felt like, I feel truly blessed and lucky to have been able to respond and do some of the things I've got to do. But given the circumstances, if any other firefighter out there in the fire service, if they had that same opportunity, they would go too. So I just feel fortunate and know that I'm no different than anybody else. They would want to go just like I did.
Wow, but you've been a firefighter for almost 40 years and you keep being that humble and being so experienced and being this year like, wow, I really appreciate that of you. So can you explain us to all my Latin American viewers, what is FEMA?
So back in the early 90s, based on the threat of earthquake in the nation, the government went through, in conjunction with some chief officers from some of the major departments in the United States, and they wanted to develop specialized rescue teams for structure collapse rescue after the threat of an earthquake. So as the program was started, they specifically put and picked areas that the teams could come from to protect those fault areas and then to back up each other with response. So that's how it was all started. As it's kind of grown through the years into what has now become like the FEMA Emergency Management and then Department of Homeland Security and all of the umbrella that it falls under, all of those teams are primarily sponsored by one fire agency in each area, which would be the sponsoring agency. And then there are other departments that belong to that as participating agencies. And
are these private or public?
It's public, so it would all be so like for example on Utah's team, Unified Fire Authority, there's the sponsoring agency, and then we have multiple participating agencies throughout that area. So Salt Lake City, Park City,
North
Shore, yeah, and so they'll send firefighters to help make up the team so that it doesn't take the drain on just one department trying to backfill when they're off on a deployment.
So could you tell us a little bit more about first the problem you had in Florida? Like I said behind cameras, llamitas, that I really Googled Mike in order to have these questions. And there was this big news article about something that went down in Florida. I think it was floods. What happened there?
So I've been to, I don't even
Remember?
know how many hurricanes I've deployed on throughout the country now. Probably, I don't know, 15 to 20, somewhere like that.
What?
So depending on which one it was, right, it would just depend on the response. Typically, when there is a hurricane that's coming in, it's kind of a known event. We know it's coming. We're not sure exactly where it's going to hit,
But
we
you have
think pretty close, and we know about the timeline. So, for the most part, ahead of the storm by a couple of days or so, a command team will go in and work with the local response command team. And then, depending on how big the storm is, multiple teams will get sent to stage in the area with the local and state teams. So that once the storm passes, then we can all work unified and start sending rescuers out to do the work.
okay. So anytime you got deployed, you just like leave your work, everything you're doing. Are you still active right now, right?
Yeah. The way no, just full-time paratech.
Okay.
So the way it works is if a team gets deployed, then they have 4 hours to be on the road and heading that way.
Nice.
So you have 80 plus members that have to be loaded up, all the trucks, all the gear, everything, and on the road. And then for the command team, when we get the call from DC, we're supposed to be on a flight within 2 hours.
Wow. And the equipment? Like
I just have my, like a
earpiece.
full fit that I have set up for like the command post, and then just, clothing, PPE.
What's in your Go kit?
I just have like computer, portable printer,
Pearl printer, why?
just little for different documents and things that I might need to do, and then scan and PDF, all that kind of stuff, just back and forth in the command post. So, just stuff like that for in that environment. If I'm not going to be working in there, then I don't take that with me.
Yeah, just your gear and that.
If I fill a different role or something for one of the other teams, if they need help, like if I'm going to be a branch director or a division group supervisor, then I usually don't take that stuff with me.
Wow.
I would different
Setup.
slim down setup, yeah.
Yeah, like mine is a printer, of course.
But they're small.
Yeah, like I think like the super portable, right? I never thought of taking a printer, but that's kind of genius. Like that's at some point you might need it.
Yeah.
So you respond to one of the biggest events. I think we, as a worldwide community of firefighters, and I'm sorry if I cry at some point, but you attend to 9/11. Can you share that experience with us?
Sure. So that was my first deployment. That was many of the teams in the nation's first deployment. So yeah, it was a lot of there was a lot of anxiousness really to get there and to help out. The travel was different at the time. We used to fly by military back then. So it took a while to get across the bases in the country to get there for some of the outlying teams that couldn't go by ground. Now, after that event was when we all go by ground now, so we can get there quicker.
How much
Just
time?
because we were already going to war right then.
How much time did pass when the first or second plane hit the tower, and then you guys got called?
We got called probably within 40 minutes. So most of the teams did. It was just a matter of trying to get them in. And that in some cases took days, like it did for us to get there. But, there was a lot of, wanting to get there and work and things that I've trained for that for years. Earlier in, I believe it was just earlier in that year, could have been 2000. The system chose a few members off of each team to go to Montgomery County, Maryland to do train the trainer for being the first lead instructors for structured cops rescue. So I was in that group and we made a lot of friends, networking with the other teams that we were on squads together and stuff. So, and I had become close with all the guys that were on my squad, but I just talked to one that worked for New York And I just talked with him probably 2 nights before, and he was going to send me some information on, at the time there was a firefighter degree at a distance program um, for states that didn't have like an associate surf bachelor's program or anything for like fire administrative stuff. And he was in that. So he was sending me information on that. And in Utah, in Salt Lake, we were about to host the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a bunch of cool pins and patch things and stuff from that. So I was going to trade him out for that. And then that happened. So, yeah, he and his brother were both killed that day. So, yeah, I called his house to see if he was on duty, and his wife said that he was missing, and that's how it played out. But when we got there, we set up, you could feel, um, to me, like I'm not a super like religious person. I mean, I'm not, but at the same time, you could really feel like evil presence had happened. Um, but we knew there was a lot of work to get done, and hoping that we could find some live people who would be trapped in the rubble still. We made it um, all over the surface. As you would work through the surface debris, sometimes a bunch of like dust and powder and everything would sip down through, and it would open up into a big void. And so we would crawl down in there and go down. We made it down into underground parking structures. We made it down into the subway system. We made it down into the underground mall and searched all of that area above and below.
Well, you can search, right? Because how was the structure like looking like? Like I get these with a void kind of things, but
Yeah, and it was very, everything was so tangled and twisted. We would use the spray paint cans, and like if we crawled down in, we'd spray the openings, would know, and then as we were going, we'd spray arrows in the opposite way. So if we had to get back out quickly and evacuate, then we knew the way to find our way out. But there was a lot of debris and nothing was solid, even down below. A lot of the walls were kind of bulging out, and there were just holes in some of them that we crawled through to get into the next space, and just, keep on going through there. Um, I remember standing in it feeling like just so small because the beams and the magnitude of it all was so huge. It was just like there were so many of us working through there. Um, but as we would find some of the victims, um, we would document where we found them, GPS, picture, all that stuff, and then would bag them up. And then once they were carried off, there was later into the incident, they had some like refrigeration trucks. And when you'd get over there with the remains, because none of like we didn't recover one full body the entire time. So, but when you'd get over there, there would be like a priest, a bishop, a rabbi, from every religion possible.
yeah.
And they would stand with you, say prayers over it, and then you'd log it in and then go back to work. So, the goal ended up being, once we realized that, everybody was gone, that it was just to find as many remains as possible so that they could be identified and give some families some closure. So that became our primary mission, was to do that. And I felt we were pretty successful at that.
Yeah.
We did have, a lot of incredible experiences throughout that time frame.
Bittersweet, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was struggles. I mean, there was a lot of, a lot of emotion with it all, but at the same time, we were getting a lot of good work done. I remember every morning that we would come in, I was on day operations, but every morning when we would come in, they would pair up one of the units from FDNY to work with us for the day. And some of them had some CLAPS experience, some had none. And we would just work the grid, and work together with them. And I remember the one morning we were talking with the captain of the ladder crew, and it was actually ended up being Captain Jonas who told us about the story of his crew bringing down an elderly woman down the stairs, and they couldn't keep up with everybody else evacuating and running out of the building, and then the building collapsed. And they thought they were trapped inside the stairwell and everything, and then after hours, they realized as the clouds parted and the sun came through that the building had collapsed around them, and they had survived it. So
They did?
yeah.
Oh, I was
They-
about to burst in tears.
So they were able to get her out, and then it was just a handful of days later, they were back to work there again. So it was pretty awesome experience we had that day of being able to interact and work with those guys.
How many days were you guys deployed?
Most deployments now are like 14 days, and I think we ended up being there about 12.
Did you guys finish like gathering all the remains? You go? No.
There was still work to be done after, and the local NYPD, FDNY, and crews rotated, and some of the teams that had come in later than us were still there beyond that, so there was overlap until it was done. But I can't remember how long after we left there was still work going on.
Did you have any impact on your health?
It's had impact on a lot of people's health, yeah. And so we've lost, like, all of our canines died relatively quick after from cancer. The last one to survive was Cowboy, and his last deployment with us was to Hurricane Katrina, and then he died right after that. He actually awesome search dog, and there's actually a children's book written about him. Yep, he's a really, really cool dog. And then we have had multiple people, not only on our team, but throughout the system that were there with multiple health problems, cancer, that are currently battling or have passed away from it.
Did you guys have any help with your mental health? Because
Yeah, actually we did. So before we left there, at the end of the deployment, every team went through like a critical incident stress debriefing back then. And then when we returned, we had to go through more before we were all released to go back on shift.
damn, and it was just like a psychiatric exam, or just like.
It was just basically like a whole room was everybody sitting around just talking about everything.
So do you feel like nowadays, speaking about mental health in our media, is like more accepted, or it's the same, or how do you see it as an American?
I think it's changed throughout the years for sure. And I would like to hope that it's getting, better to where the mentality does change against it. I feel like it has in some aspects. My son's is a firefighter, full-time firefighter on job now. And at his department, they have like their annual physicals, but they also have an annual meeting
Wow.
with a one-on-one just to check on their mental health. And so I think that's positive. I think that's a good thing.
How do you deal with it after 9/11? Because like that was something that hurt us like worldwide, and you were actually there, and you took pieces of an actual firefighter out. How do you manage that? Do you take like therapy on your own, or just like.
Um, I, through the years, I think it just helped that, before there was a lot of more focus on mental health issues. I would say it was from the crew members that I had, that the crew on like right after the ladder company I was on, that I was captain at, and then on the heavy rescue company for all the years I did then. Guys that were with me there were on my crew, and I think that helped a lot. And then honestly, just good support from family, and then it never hurts to just go take a ride on the Harley, clear your mind. So that's helped a lot too through the years.
Wow. Well, Harley is a good idea, but if anyone that's watching this right now feels like they need to talk, there's a lot of places where you can go, and you can also text me if I'm free. I will be able to hear you. I will be glad to. So that was 9/11, and after that, what happened? You just keep going to these big events and
Um, yeah, then the team sometimes not through the years, some of the missions have changed as far as, yeah, we do structure collapse rescue, but we also do wide area search. We do water rescue. We do the wide area search after like a wildfire's burned through, looking for human remains with our HRDs, canine, and the mission has just changed a lot over the years. And so, yeah, then we've just ended up having more and more deployments.
in bigger ones, right?
Yeah, some of them have, yeah, for sure. Some of the different storms that we've gone to, um, and then the structure collapse at Surfside in Miami.
I remember reading about, I don't know if it's Katrina or maybe the Miami one, because I thought it's Florida. It says
That was
Florida.
Florida.
And they say you got deployed. I remember it was 4 days before it hit, or it was 4 days after.
So usually on a storm, we'd get sent, yeah, a few days ahead of it. And then, like I said, we'll join in with the command team. The other teams will meet up with the local and state teams and then kind of ride the storm out and then start working.
Yeah, because that's my question. Like, if you got deployed like days before the drama hits the town, how do you stay safe in order to help if you are already there?
Sometimes we've identified some of the areas that have buildings, especially like in, say, Florida, for example, that can withstand like a category 5. Yeah, sometimes we're a little close and sometimes we got caught in, you know, floods and stuff. I remember a lot of the teams got hung up that way at Hurricane Harvey in Texas,
Mhm.
where the flooding just got so deep so fast that a lot of the rigs couldn't move forward anymore and the water was just coming up into them. So they ended up having to go out and release the boats off the back and hop in them and drive and just leave the trucks there until they could get, somewhere else and start, bringing people that they could see that were trapped as well into a safer area. Yeah.
And your equipment, what happened with it? Did you lose it, or?
Yeah, I mean, all the trucks had to have all their fluids and everything changed and everything out of them so they could move them, but all the gear and everything was fine. Yeah.
Okay, nice. That's a good one. If you had like to choose from all your big deploys, if you could choose one, like says like this was most difficult in like mental challenging, in area challenging, what would be?
I think it'd still probably come back to the World Trade Center just from the magnitude of that. Um, and then I would say the um, the second most would probably be that Surfside collapse, just because of uh, when I first got to that one, the smells of the collapse building and the
Dead people?
yeah and all that really mimicked the smells at the World Trade Center, and so it really made a lot of people that had been to both kind of have like a flashback, if you will, to 20 plus years before. Um, but at the time it was like there was so much work to get done that we could think about that later and just move on. But it definitely created, I know, trouble. So that one was a very difficult deployment as well. And system wide, I mean, from both events like that, we have lost a lot of team members to suicide. Lost one of our team members that was on my crew for about 15 years recently from that. And I know after even this Miami one, some system members um, have quit or we've lost to suicide. So it's an issue that it's very difficult in those moments to make sure. For me in my position, I was really focused on trying to make sure that I was out there with them as much as I could be to kind of see and experience what they were going through, but at the same time, make sure we're trying to rotate crews enough. Um, one thing that the IFF did that I thought was really great was they brought in a mental peer
Program?
yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but they brought that in, and so then it was known that anybody, if you were having an issue, you could just walk away in that moment, and they had two different spots that you could go sit down and talk with folks there, and people utilized it, and I thought that was a great thing. That's the first time I'd ever seen something like that brought out on an incident like that, so I thought it was really heads up and a strong move from Miami.
I love that we could be like sharing about mental health issues because I don't know why people is so scared about it.
Yeah. Well, I just think it was from like the year I started to the stigma of if you couldn't handle it and all that. And I think just through the years, um, there are some things that, yeah, that are just you deal with, but there are other things that come up. And there's also probably that, you know, overlapping over years of time of stuff that um, probably need to be talked about now and addressed so that the next generations, do better than we did.
Well, I think you guys did an excellent, great, magnificent job. But if you could like give a small consejo, ¿cómo digo consejo en advice? Thank you. Thanks, Sebastian, who is behind cameras right now. If you could give an advice like to younger generations that at some point we are going to be in the positions you guys are right now, like a quick guide how to become a good rescuer, like some advice in general.
I would say take advantage of every second of training that you can get. Um, and then always train when you're on duty. You're there getting paid and you can, or you've dedicated that time. I started as a volunteer. So there's time, if I dedicated that time that I want to be there doing something productive. You never know when that skill or that whatever you practice that day is going to come into effect. I was always huge on training and making sure that we were prepared for no matter what came along. Because to me, I felt mentally, if I pulled up to something and I wasn't prepared for it, that is going to be worse for me than what I'm about to see. So I never wanted to have regrets that I wasn't ready and prepared to show up on whatever, we rolled on that day. So I think that helps a lot to be ready for it. So take advantage of those training moments, train a lot, train hard, um, and then, you know, pay attention, pay attention to those that are, there before you. There's always good examples to learn from. There's always bad examples to learn from, but you're still learning on what to do and what not to do. So either aspect of that, you're still learning from it. Um, and then network, because you can learn a lot of things from wherever you go and however you train. Somebody might do it just a little bit different, but it actually might work a little bit better. It might be a different way that you hadn't thought of that to do a certain task. And I think that's important to keep your mind open. There's many, many things in rescue that there's more than one way to do them.
Yep.
To still accomplish the goal and make sure that it's done safe and efficient. So yeah, I think that would be.
So in all these years, technology has grew in a amazingly rapidly rate.
Mhm.
Do you think at some point firefighters might disappear with all this technology we have right now, like say like robots that are taking out fires, and now we have drones, and we've seen an FDIC this like super drone dog that you can actually kick, and the dog, it's not a real dog, it's a robot, people. Um,
Mm.
like, do you think that we might disappear at some point?
I don't know. There's always got to be somebody that can actually go in and crawl in and extinguish a fire and drag somebody out, bring them down a ladder. And so no, I think it will always remain the need for firefighters.
Because speaking about technology, I would love to jump into paratech talking because um, we used to use wood before straws were invented, and things are still developing. What do you see will be happening in the future? Like, do you think there's things that won't change? Maybe a lot of things will change. how is technology affecting you guys directly over there in America?
I mean, yeah, some things, and you can see like us always constantly striving to move forward um, and improve and add different things to the product. Um, Probably the latest would be the Rescue Guardian, where you can see that we have, it went from just like a gauged, load cell to now we can not only have what the load is, we can have the angle and the incline, we can have vibration.
The alert.
Run that off of your app and marry a bunch of them together and name them where they're at, whether it's a rake or two post or whatever side of the building it's on. So I think that will be one of the things that I think will kind of come more and more into where it seems normal to use it on everything that we build and use and do. Um, and then, just constantly looking and making sure if there's something that we can do more efficient, build it even stronger or whatever. I think those are the ways that, technology and things will move along through the paratech world.
So why did you choose paratech? Like, how did paratech arrive into your life?
Um, I had been retired about 15 minutes and got a phone call from Tom Gavin and said he had got my name from a few places and that might be a good addition to the team. And so we talked for quite a while, and then he flew out and we met together, and then he invited me out to the factory, and I met Hans and Ken, the owner, and Hans is our new CEO.
Hi, Hans.
And then I was offered the position, and here I am. It's been a wonderful ride. I mean, I started in the fire service at 19 and left at 49, and paratech was all we had and used. So I really grew up using that. I mean, it was something that I was excited to go do and do, support the training events and do the in-service and stuff like that because I had used the equipment, so I felt very, very comfortable with it.
Did you use the equipment like in 9/11? Did you use it like from Katrina or in Miami or?
No, none of those events, and but it was used in Surfside and I mean many other events that as far as deployments and some of the other teams have used stuff even recently. I know this last year on some of the deployments we had, paratech was used on some of the hurricanes.
Yeah, I think one of the most maybe famous, like for saying something, services. It was Miami-Dade, and they were able to bring back our gear, and it's like still functioning right now, right?
Yeah. So they had a bunch of struts in there on their initial response on that first night. Yeah.
So speaking about paratech, we do have, and this is completely a promotional thing, but we do have these awards, these rescue awards. Can you explain how does it work and how do you get one?
Sure. So if you have responded on an incident and you were able to use some of our equipment to perform a rescue, um, then all you would have to do is there's a spot on our website and you can click on that. You could get a hold of one of the rescue specialists or someone from your dealer. You could get a hold of your local um, regional paratech representative to help out as well. But there's a spot on there on our website that you can click on for rescue award. You can put a narrative of everything that happened, the people that were involved, their names, and some photos if you can. And then um, we will put you in for the rescue award, send those out, and then, notice and recognize that on our social media.
Because I think recognition is so important now these days.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see, for everything for the Paratech family to see how the equipment gets used all around the world and how it does make a difference in saving lives. And that not only goes from that guys like, us that are out doing the the training and the in-services and the demos and stuff like that, but it goes back to everyone at the factory that makes the product, takes pride in making stuff that saves
Yeah.
people's lives, everybody in our office, in customer service, everywhere that helps the whole family or Paratech make a difference around the world. So it's important to see that.
Yeah. Thank you. And what about Paratech University?
Yeah, so Paratech University was designed to be able to do a few things. If there was an area where people had some Paratech product, but maybe wasn't fully sure how to use it all in all the different ways that it can be used, because one strut can be used in multiple technical rescue disciplines. So it was a chance for that, and then it was a chance for, if people were interested in Paratech, they could come to a class and see all of the different ways that it could be used in a 2-day hands-on class. So it has a little bit of lecture in the morning, and then the rest of it is all hands-on. You'll learn how to do structure clap shoring, airbag lifts, um, all of the monopod, bipod, tripod, and gantry lift. You will also learn how to do heavy lift with the hydrofusions and chasing struts. So it's really a well-rounded program that gives you a lot of hands-on and either refreshes or gives you new ideas of things that could help you with your rescue stuff back at your agency.
Wow. Mike, thank you so much for joining me in this fine, almost make me tear out conversation here with you. So your camera is the number one. If you could please just like, you want to say hi like to anybody, or just like give a general message or something you want to just like finish your episode with, camera is all yours.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it. And hopefully, maybe we learned or, are interested in some of the stuff. Hopefully I gave a good, description and background of some of the experiences. Again, like I said, I feel super lucky that I got to do that and just be part of Utah's team. So many good members on the team, and then so many great members on the command team that come from, all the members on the command teams come from members of all those 28 teams put together. So it truly, it was an honor for me to get on there. And a lot of the people that I took their place were people that mentored me and I respected through the years. So yeah, so very fortunate for all of that, and fortunate to be with Paratech now and being able to do all the things that has offered me to be able to do around the world. And yeah, very thankful. Support from my family, and yeah, thanks.
No, thanks to you, and thanks to you, llamitas. If you are interested in any part of the world to get Paratech equipment, you can just send me an inbox in this podcast and we will try to reach somebody that can help to you. Y muchas gracias por ver este episodio. Nos vemos en la próxima. Oye, Bombera, fuera.